Well, good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on what time you're watching this video, or simply good hello. I'm determined to make good hello a thing. So this is going to be what I hope is a short video explaining to you how to complete your classroom management IRIS parts 1 and 2 modules assignment. So first thing I want to show you is I want to refer to part of a PowerPoint that was discussed, or depending on when you're watching this, will be discussed on our first night of class. And part of this PowerPoint is the portion that goes over our major classroom assignments. So I'm going to navigate to the slide that talks about the IRIS modules. This assignment is worth a total of 70 points. In the past, I had required one module, but I required you to go through and complete every activity, every question, everything that was in there with the modules. In the summer of 2021, Vanderbilt revamped their IRIS modules. Let me back up just a second. IRIS is a free resource provided by Vanderbilt University. No, I do not work for Vanderbilt. I don't receive any money for using their resources. I was first introduced to IRIS when I was a graduate student at ETSU way back, we won't say what year. Anyway, IRIS has a plethora of great free resources. There are many modules that align perfectly with our course content. And in the past, I had actually required the completion of 6 modules because they aligned perfectly. But because I wanted to ensure that I was being responsive to the amount of time that it took for students to be able to complete those assignments, and also responsive to just simply the caseload or the workload, I've decided to limit the number of assignments that we're required to complete. So now I'm only requiring these first 2 modules. And like I said, they revamped it. There used to be only one module on classroom management. Well, there was 2, but they've changed the way that they did them. So for our purposes moving forward, what I will want you to do instead of completing everything within the module is to read through the entire module, and it's part 1 and part 2. Another piece of clarification, there are 2 part 2s. So part 1 will be the same for everyone. Part 2, you can choose to either do the one that says elementary or that says secondary. The choice is yours. The content is roughly the same. Just some of the questions and some of the discussions that the interviewers or the people discussing might be slightly different with the perspective of either it being on elementary or on secondary. And all of this probably sounds like Greek, but I'm going to walk you through it, I promise. So now that I gave you the backstory, let's get you caught up to where we're supposed to be. So for our class, you will be going through the IRIS Classroom Management modules, parts 1 and part 2. You will not be completing any of the work required on the IRIS site. I want you to read through everything, listen to the video recordings, listen to the podcast, go through all of the information there, reflect on the questions, but I'm not requiring you to answer those questions. Instead, once you've gone through part 1 and either of the 2 part 2s, you will then complete a Kahoot challenge. The Kahoot challenge will consist of 20 questions. I'll show you where to find that as well. If you've never played Kahoot before, Kahoot is a online quiz type platform that allows you to respond to questions. Kahoot can be used either in a live setting or it can be used in a challenge setting. And in order to make this assignment more flexible, since we're on an online setting and some of you may be ready to do it sooner than others, I decided to make it a Kahoot challenge so that way it didn't have to be done synchronously at the same time. So you'll be completing, I guess, a Kahoot challenge. So let's start from where you need to start. The IRIS modules, like I said, IRIS Classroom Management Parts 1 and Part 2, you'll be doing a Kahoot challenge. They are due week 2. You can find all of the information about Kahoot or about IRIS if you go to the resources, IRIS resource. But I've also provided the links to the specific links or the specific modules for you in our folder, and I'll show you those in just a second. So after reading through all of part 1 and all of part two, either elementary or secondary, you're going to then complete the assigned Kahoot challenge. And like I said, I'll show you where that folder is. You'll start by first navigating to the part one module. You'll begin by watching the challenge video, reflect on those initial thoughts. Then you'll proceed to the next section, which is perspectives and resources. Read through all of the information there and all of the activities. You're not required to complete them, but I do need you to read through them. Next, you're going to go to the wrap up. And in that wrap up, you're going to watch the short video, and then you're going to reflect on the two revisiting your initial thoughts questions. Yes, they're the same question from the initial thoughts. That's why it's revisiting. And you're looking to find out whether or not you've learned anything new or whether or not your understanding has been deepened. Hopefully, it has been after going through the whole entire module. After doing that, then you will navigate to part two for elementary or secondary and repeat the above or previous steps. Once you've gone through the second module, then you're going to go to the Kahoot challenge link. I'll show you where to find it on our iLearn page. Make sure that you enter both your first and your last name. I often teach this class 2 nights a week. Some semesters is 1 night, some semesters is 2. So since it's the same class, I use the same Kahoot challenge. Also, I often have double students with the same first name, or maybe sometimes students with the same last name. So please make sure that you enter both your first and your last name to ensure proper awarding of points for the assignment. The way that the points will be generated is I can pull a report from Kahoot, and then that way I can look at the questions or at your scores or your responses, I guess. There are 20 questions. The assignment is worth 70 questions, so each question is worth 3.5 points to total the 70 points. So after the Kahoot challenge is closed, I'll go into Kahoot, pull a report, and then I will look at how many questions you scored correctly and enter that score for you. Please understand that with all of our assignments, the link for the assignment will disappear soon after the due date. So make sure that we're keeping up with our class schedule as far as when assignments are due. Let me explain to you what I mean by class schedule. On our iLearn page, there is a calendar posted for you that says course calendar. I believe iLearn has an embedded calendar, but apparently I am not tech savvy enough to make that work. So I provided my own, and this is the way. I'm a very linear thinking person, and so this makes sense to me, and I'm hoping that will make sense to you as well. So using this calendar here for you, every week is lined out. So week 1, it says the topics that we're going to discuss are listed here. And then it says assignments and due dates. So it tells you from week 1 here at the bottom here, or at the bottom of that section, Classroom Management Iris Modules Parts 1 and 2, it says complete assigned Kahoot. And that says it's due before our next class session, which would be week 2. So that's how that course calendar works. It lists everything for you there, what it is that we're discussing for that week, and what is due and when it's due. So that's how that's laid out. Also, please note that at the bottom, it says that points will be deducted from the grade for late assignments if they are accepted. Drop boxes will close or disappear soon after the due date, and that this lets you know that when this course calendar was revised. And depending on when you're watching the video, it may be different. However, the format will be the same. From time to time, every semester, I look at things that need to be tweaked, things that need to be changed, and do so accordingly. So now that I've shown you this part, again, this was in our information that we discussed on week 1. This PowerPoint in its totality is available for you on our iLearn content page in the week 1 folder. All right, so now let's show you how to navigate to Iris and what that's going to look like. So from our iLearn page, and I've got mine set in student preview mode, so hopefully it looks like what you see on yours. If I click on content, once I click on content, I can scroll down, and what I'm looking for is the folder that says Classroom Management Iris Modules Parts 1 and 2, because that's the assignment we're talking about. So if I click on that folder, it's going to take me here. So obviously, because you're watching the video, you found this first link, or either it was emailed to you or sent to you, or somehow or another you found this link, or else you wouldn't be watching the video. But just for future reference, this is the link where you'll find the link to the video that you're currently watching in this folder. Right below it, This is a link to a video provided by Iris that tells you how to navigate through the Iris modules. Below that, I have for you a link to the part one, which everyone will be completing. And then below that, I have a link to both of the part twos. You choose either or, whichever one you prefer. Below that, you will see the link to the Iris Kahoot challenge. Please understand that depending on when you're watching this video, I made this video when I began using the Kahoot challenge. That game pin, which is why I have it in red, will change every semester because obviously the challenge closes. So that game pin, don't go by what's on the video, go by what's on your iLearn page, please. This is just for demonstration purposes. There isn't a Dropbox that you can access because there's nothing that you're going to submit or upload. Like I said, I will generate a report from Kahoot and I will use that to award your points. As it says here, 20 questions. Each question is worth 3.5 points for a total of 70 points. Now let me show you what the Iris modules look like. So when you click on the link that I provided for you, this is Iris module part one. All of the modules are organized in the same way. They all have 5 sections. It starts out with a challenge, then the initial thoughts, perspectives and resources, the wrap up, and the assessment. For our course purposes, you don't even have to look at the assessment. You can, but you don't have to. You will notice here that, at least at the time of the recording, they have a link to a Kahoot. Please don't follow their link. My Kahoot comes directly from theirs. However, if you follow theirs, I cannot generate your points. So I need you to be sure that you go through our iLearn page and click on that link so that way I can generate the points, the report, so that you get scores for the work that you submitted. You may wonder, 70 points for Kahoot? Wow, that's awesome. The points are so high because of the amount of time it takes you to go through the Kahoot, through the Iris modules. Not because of the difficulty, but because of the time invested. And so I wanted to make sure that I recognized and was cognizant of the amount of time that you're going to be putting into this assignment. Kahoot itself is not difficult, and this assignment isn't about difficulty. However, I wanted to make sure that you had the background knowledge that you need before you go on to our next major assignment, which is our classroom management plan. So based on what you learned through modules 1 and module 2, you will use that information in order to do our next major assignment where you're creating your own comprehensive classroom management plan. But for right now, what you'll be doing is once you navigate to this page, this is part 1, you will read through all of the pages here. You can click right here at the bottom where it says begin. Once you click on begin, it takes you to, this is the challenge video that I referenced in the PowerPoint. You'll see the video is literally 1 minute and 45 seconds. Nothing difficult there. You're going to watch the video. You will navigate through by simply scrolling down and clicking on the next button. Once you click on that next button, this is where I was talking about the initial thoughts. So there's 2 questions here that I want you to reflect on. Like I said, you don't have to jot them down. You can if you want to, but you do not have to. You're going to go through, and then after you do your initial thoughts, again, you're going to click the next. You're going to go through the perspectives and resources. So you will do this as you go through the entire module. You can also say, for example, if you start something and you have to stop because the baby's crying or dinner's burning or whatever the case might be and you need to stop, you can always come back to it. So you can navigate also over here on the left-hand side. So as long as you note where you left off, you can always come back and pick up. So I might say, this is where I had left off, so I come back to this point. And then I can continue to navigate through. There's case studies in here that you can explore. There is all kinds of different, anything that you see has a link. It would be great for you to be able to follow those links and just explore that information. Like I said, it is a plethora of great information. And like I said, Iris offers information not just on classroom management, but on a ton of information. And I'll show you a list of that here at the end of the video as well, some of the other things that you could use. This is where I was talking about where you've got little short podcasts, like this one's 2 minutes and 46 seconds. This one's 1 minute and 45 seconds. So that's where I want you to go through and listen to and read everything that's available for you in this module. And as you continue to navigate through, it walks you through everything that you need to know about creating a plan, what goes into your comprehensive classroom management plan. After you go through the entire resources and perspectives and resources, then you've got the wrap up. And in the wrap up, you've got information again, another little short podcast, a minute and 24 seconds. Then you're revisiting those initial thoughts, those questions from the beginning, to see whether or not you have a deeper understanding, whether or not things have changed, if you've learned something new. And like I said before, I used to require the completion of all of the activities, all of the questions documented on a Word document and uploaded. I'm no longer requiring that. So there are assessment questions here, but you don't have to do them. Once you have completed number one, all of that, if you go back to the very beginning and see, you can navigate through this over here as well. So you see here, there's a link provided here for you where you can choose to go to either part 2 for elementary or part 2 for secondary. Those links are also provided for you already on our iLearn page. I have those links provided there for you as well. So you can get to them from either way, whichever way makes you happiest. This is what part 2 elementary. So again, the same format, always challenge, initial thoughts, perspectives, and resources, wrap up, and assessment. Again, you would go through it the same way, using the begin button, then the next, and you would navigate all the way through the entire thing, reading everything, listening to any podcasts, watching any of the videos. This is what it looks like for secondary, same exact structure. And so, like I said, it's not at all a difficult assignment. The reason for the 70 points is because of the time involved. And like I said, I wanted to recognize and acknowledge the time that you're going to have to take to put into this. Kahoot. So once you have completed your part 1 and either the 2 part 2s on our iLearn page, you will see that after this video, and like I said, you don't have to go to the navigating the Star Legacy module unless you need to, but that's there. Parts 1 and part 2. And then below that, like I said, this is where you would get to the link for our Kahoot challenge. All right. So if you were to follow this challenge from here, this is what it's going to look like for you. So when you log in, it's going to tell you how long it's open for, what you need to do. It says enter nickname. I need your first and last name, please. This, like I said earlier, I teach this class some semesters 1 night, some semesters 2 nights a week. And so it's open for both of my classes. It needs to, in order for me to be able to ensure that I give points to the correct person, I might have a John Smith and a John Worthington. If you just put in John, I may not know which John it is. So just for example, so please make sure you put in your first and last name. So the Kahoot challenge, like I said, this is for our class. It goes over parts 1 and 2. There are 20 questions, true, false, and multiple choice. And like I said, once you complete through all of that, and like I said, once you log in, you'll go from there. If I were to log in myself, I'm just going to put me testing. You'll see that it will open up for you. And it'll ask you true or false, and then you will go through the questions and complete the questions there. And I'm not going to answer it because I'm not going to give it away. All right, so, and that's going to play in the background. It's going to drive me crazy, but we're almost finished. So like I said, you will, for your IRIS Classroom Management Parts 1 and Parts 2 modules, you will go through both of the irises, and you will, like I said, part 1, everybody. Part 2, you can choose secondary or elementary. Read everything, go through all the activities, listen to all the podcasts, any of the videos, all that information, absorb all that knowledge and all of those great nuggets of information. And then you're going to complete the Kahoot challenge by navigating back to our content page and clicking on the Kahoot challenge. It will allow you to enter up until the deadline. And as I said, it's due week 2 of our class. So it's due that, depending on the night that we have class, it's due that night. And then, like I said, I will pull a report and generate grades and put them into the Dropbox for you. Just so that you have some information on IRIS, just in case you want to use it. If I were to Google IRIS Resource Locator, and of course it pops up on mine because I go to it all the time. Just wanted you to see some of the other resources that are out there. So there are tons of topics here. If you look here on the left-hand side, You can see all of this information here where it talks about anything from accommodations, assessment, assistive technology, behavior and classroom management, which is where I spend most of my time, collaboration, content instruction, differentiated instruction, disability, diversity, early intervention, early childhood, evidence-based practices, IEPs, juvenile corrections, learning strategies, mathematics, multi-tiered systems of support, and RTI, which is response to intervention, reading, literacy, language arts, related services, school improvement, leadership, and transition. So all of those different options are available there for you. Let me close out of the Kahoot. All right. So to make sure that we've got everything that we need, hopefully that has answered all of your questions. Again, like I said, please don't hesitate to refer back to our PowerPoint from our first night of class where I went over our major assignments. And like I said, this is located in that major assignment. Here where it talks about IRIS modules being due the second week. Also, do not hesitate to use these resources I have for you here on our content page on our iLearn, namely, first of all, this video, as well as a video provided by Iris that shows you how to navigate through the modules, and then links to the part one, either of the two part twos, and then the Kahoot challenge. If you still have questions after watching this video about this assignment, please don't hesitate to reach out. You can reach me either via email, text, or phone. I will see you soon. Take care and God bless. Thank you, guys.